Hi, I'm Clever Ghoul, but you can call me Nikki. Welcome back to the channel! This week when I was at Target, I saw that they had all these kitschy retro motel signs, and I fell in love with them, but I knew that I wanted to make them spooky, yet keep the kitsch. I got home and I started thinking about it and drawing out different ideas, and then out of nowhere, the perfect idea came to me. The Mothman Motel. I know what you're thinking, how is that the perfect idea? Well, 1, the alliteration. Chef's kiss. 2, I had these red LED Halloween lights. I have a whole pack of them. They're usually made to be put into paintings or posters so that you can have glowing red eyes as a Halloween decoration, but I've just been saving them and haven't used them. And when I thought about it, I realized I could drill holes into this sign and make Mothman's eyes on it as like the glowing element. You know what? I don't know if this is making sense. Let me show you my sketch. So as you can see in the sketch, I'm keeping the retro element and the kitsch alive with the little sparkly stars in the corner and the cursive font. I'm adding in some horror with this chunky Mothman font, and of course the little Mothman illustration with the red eyes coming through. Now, I don't know if I'm dating myself here and if this is still their slogan, but there's a chain of motels in North America called Motel 6, and their slogan forever was, "We'll keep the light on for you." Which just, again, is so perfect with Mothman, because what are moths attracted to? Light. So I decided to add in at the bottom, "We leave the light on for him." Not for you, for him, our beloved Mothman. Anyway, all of this was just really making me giggle as I was drawing it out, and I could not wait to make it a reality. So let's get into it. For materials, you're going to need a sign, sandpaper. I used a 120 medium grit, a water-based spray primer. I used Krylon Color Max in smoke gray, acrylic paint and brushes, and additionally / optionally some Posca markers. Posca markers are great because they're acrylic paint in a marker, which is excellent for adding small details and lettering. But if you don't have any and you don't feel like buying any, you can definitely do this with paint and a brush. It just will take you a little bit longer and you need to be more precise. If you're using Posca pens, you want to use a clear sealant after you're done using them. Do not use a Mod Podge or a varnish because it'll make the colors run. You're gonna spray a clear finishing sealant spray. I ended up using this one from Krylon. Now these next items I'm going to list are optional. If you want to add lights in for the eyes like Mothman, if you're making this exactly, you're also going to need a drill or a Dremel and eye protection, hot glue, and these red LED light up eyes. Now I also ended up getting a little too excited and added in some lights on the back so that when the sign is on the wall, it's kind of illuminating the wall. If you want to do that as well, you're going to need an additional set of fairy lights. You want to get the small craft ones, but again, I will have everything linked. Now, before we get into this project today, I just want to say, finally have an Amazon affiliate link, so now you can shop everything that's in this video. And not to beg, but please use the affiliate link if you can, because every little bit helps my channel and makes me able to do more interesting and bigger crafts for all of you. So thank you so much. To start, I sanded the base of the sign, not the metal arrow, but just the base background. I took the sandpaper and went all over it just to make sure that I got any glossy bits off and to have a nice even surface that the spray primer would be able to adhere to nicely. Then I took it outside and sprayed it down. Once dry, I painted the main sign with black acrylic paint, blow drying it in between coats to speed up the process. In total, I ended up doing 4 coats of black paint. Maybe I should say 3.5, because at the bottom where the no vacancy was, I wanted to use that and kind of be able to trace that later. So I definitely covered it where you could not see it, but if you tilted it in the light just right, you could and use it to trace. So something to keep in mind. Now that the black was done, it was time to move on to the arrow. But before I started with that, I taped it down to my table and then took some paper and put it behind the arrow and covered up the black parts that I just painted down. So you're basically masking off all of the black that you just painted so that you don't end up getting new paint on it. Once everything was taped off and ready to go, I painted 2 layers of white acrylic paint all over the arrow. Again, using the blow dryer to speed up the drying time in between layers. Then I began to paint the base of the arrow with red acrylic paint. To really get an even layer, this took about 5 coats and a lot of patience. And if you happen to get any red on the letters, which I decided to keep white, that's okay. You can either take a little bit of a damp towel and wipe it off a little bit, but really you can just go back in with white paint and clean that up. Once everything was dry, I removed the paper and referencing my sketch, I lightly marked out in pencil where all the lettering and little details were going to go. Now I know what you're thinking. Next step is painting in all those letters and elements. No. Instead, I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to get holes into this particle board. I didn't have the right drill bit size and I was a little worried something might go wrong. So I figured I may as well do it here and now so that way if anything happens, I can patch it and repaint it black and then move on. If you paint all your letters and elements here and then you go to drill and there's a mistake, now you have to paint everything black again and start over, and I just am not about that. I did all drilling off camera. I drilled a hole, take the light, check to see if it was fitting, drill a little bit more, check again, going back and forth and widening that space so that I was able to get the light all the way through. Now that the eye holes were totally finished, it's time to add in the lettering and details with Posca markers. First I took the red and outlined around the eye shape that I just made. Then I went in with the pink, adding in the lettering, and then with the white, adding in any of the decorative details, including the stars and Mothman. Then I went down to the bottom of the sign and added in my slogan, "We leave the light on for him," as well as the no vacancy. Once that first layer was dry, I went back in and touched up anywhere that I thought needed a little more paint or added a second layer anywhere, and again let that sit to dry before taking it outside and spraying it with clear Krylon satin finish spray. While that was drying outside, I realized how thick the battery pack for the lights actually was, and in order for it to sit on the wall and not be tilted, I knew I would have to make some bumpers so that it would stay flush on the wall. To do this, I ended up cutting out 18 small rectangles, roughly 3/4 of an inch by 5/8 of an inch, and I ended up making 3 bumpers, and each bumper was a stack of 6. Once they were all cut out, I would take a piece, put hot glue, put another one on top of it, hot glue, put another one on top of it, keep sandwiching it until you have 6 all together. That's 1 bumper. Repeat that 2 more times, and then you have all 3 bumpers ready to go. Now that that's all done, I brought the sign back in and I hot glued the bumpers down, going vertically down the middle of the sign, one at the top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom. Then it was time to attach the red eye lights. First I took those lights, placed them into their holes, and hot glued them down around the edges. Then I marked off where I wanted the battery pack to go, and I hot glued that down. I put it in a location so that when this piece is hanging on the wall, I can simply hit the switch to turn on the lights. But also I was careful when gluing this down because you want to make sure that you don't accidentally remove your access to the sliding part where you remove the batteries, because when you need to change them, if that's glued down, you're kind of screwed. Then I took up the wires, wrapped them together nicely, and with some masking tape just held them down and taped them to the back. So I took those little fairy lights that I mentioned earlier and I taped them down going around the perimeter of the sign and into the middle. Now I didn't add glue here for 2 reasons. 1, if I decide I don't like this, I can just take them off and reuse them for a different project. But 2, these battery packs for these lights have to be completely unscrewed and taken apart to add in new batteries. So you can't really glue them down, or you at least cannot glue down that piece because you will need to be able to access it. So as messy as it looks, tape was the best option for me right now. Now that that's all done, it's time for the reveal. Here it is. I am so happy with this. It looks exactly like my sketch, which I guess it should since, you know, I sketched it and then I sketched it onto here. But it's always exciting when that happens. It still has the fun and kitschy elements that these old motel signs do. I really love pink and red together, so of course I wanted to go with those colors. But also I thought the pink was a nice nod to the retro sort of kitschy motel signs you used to see while still keeping it spooky. And of course, the little light detail. How cute is that? Imagine if this was actually full size and you were driving down the road and you saw these little lights. I would make a detour on purpose to go to this motel. Now, this sign cost me $5 to start with, and I had the lights on hand, but I think the 4-pack of lights is about $20. Not to mention the little clear lights. I understand that not everyone wants to pay that much for this. If you wanted to do this at home and you still wanted them to kind of light up or be fun, I think you could use either red sequins or you could use red flat-back rhinestones here to get the same sort of glittery appeal when the light hits it without having to pay for actual lighting. I just think the lights are really cool, and I think Mothman would really love this, and I hope he comes to stay at his motel, my motel, whatever. Now these signs are still available at Target, and in fact there's a second one which I'm debating on doing. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.